The sacredness in suffering can definitely be a big theme in cults. It can also definitely be a big theme in America. Like, we have that in American culture. If you work harder for something, like, it's better, you're a better person. You know, we look at people that run marathons and we're like, wow, because you can put yourself through something really hard. This somehow equals goodness. I used to be in the cult of marathon running. I'm Daniella, a scholar of cults, extreme groups, and extremely bad leadership. I wrote a book called Uncultured about growing up in the Children of God religious cult, going into the cult of the U.S. Army. You can watch me win a marathon in said book, and you can get signed copies here. So this person is talking about Jovies, the Jehovah's Witnesses, which is now my favorite name for them. Definitely a cult. But cults love a purity requirement for this exact reason, the goodness of suffering. So purity requirements, not just schmecks. In fact, anything that you have a black and white rule of, I don't engage in this, I don't put this in my body, I don't put this in my mind, my soul, my spirit, my children, etc. This is what I've written about purity requirements in my book, Culting of America. If you are interested in hearing this chapter by chapter as they get completed, you can find that on my Patreon, link in bio. Okay. Cults and controlling groups often have purity requirements that strip away your personal identity. These rules cover everything: what you eat, how you act, who you sleep with, and even how you think. Following them shows you're obedient and totally committed to the group. By sticking to these strict rules, you set yourself apart from outsiders and prove your loyalty. Plus, it gives leaders an easy way to spot and punish anyone who steps out of line, keeping everyone in check and isolated from outside influences. The constant monitoring keeps members on edge and makes sure the group maintains power over your life. And by the way, when group members are watching each other and keeping each other in check, that is called, the greatest name ever, performative regulation. These rules are often framed as essential for the spiritual enlightenment or reaching a higher state of being. Cult leaders convince their followers that these rules are divinely ordained. Cabling while reading is a little difficult. That is a joke that only knitters will get. Cult leaders convince their followers that these rules are divinely ordained, which justifies extreme measures and keeps control tight. Strict purity rules demand a lot of time, mental energy, keeping members so busy that they're less likely to question the group's beliefs. Cults often sell the idea that their path to purity is the only true one, creating a sense of moral superiority and an us versus them mentality. This makes members more committed and resistant to outside influences. It also reinforces discipline and self-control, which are highly valued in the group. What's more, members become their own jailers, constantly policing themselves and keeping an eye on others in performative regulation. This setup is intentional because it helps break them down. Research shows that self-concealment, hiding parts of yourself to meet these standards, can lead to anxiety and depression. Ultimately, purity is always about controlling people. In her book, Pure, which breaks down evangelical purity culture, and we read that in Cult Memoir Book Club, which you can also access through the $10 level of my Patreon, link in bio. Linda K. Klein writes, "The purity message is not about schmecks. Rather, it is about us, who we are expected to be, and who it is said we will become if we fail to meet those expectations. Purity requirements reinforce the exit costs you'll face if you can't constantly sacrifice enough to meet them. Purity requirements work so well because humans aren't built to be perfect. These impossible standards are designed to induce guilt and shame, making members feel unworthy when they inevitably fail. This emotional manipulation only deepens their dependence on the group for validation and a sense of self-worth. Members are led to believe that redemption can only come from staying in line with the group's rules. So they end up constantly policing themselves and even watching others, creating an environment of constant surveillance and fear of failure. What's interesting is that the cult leader almost never follows these same purity rules. While followers are expected to adhere to them religiously, the leader remains exempt, flaunting their special status. This double standard reinforces the leader's authority and keeps members in a cycle of blame and devotion, believing they'll never measure up unless they sacrifice even more of themselves. The purity rules serve as a tool of control, reinforcing the power imbalance between the leader and the followers. Generals in the United States Army don't have to wear their uniforms according to regulation. Just saying. In today's corporate America, the idea of professionalism can act like purity rules we just talked about in cults. It becomes a tool for control and exclusion. Tima Okun and Keith Jones, grassroots organizers and scholars with the NAACP, explain how these standards are heavily influenced by white supremacy culture. Essentially, corporate professionalism is designed to favor whiteness while discriminating against anything that doesn't fit Western or white norms in things like dress, code, speech, work style, and even timeliness. Just like in cults, the pressure to conform is intense, and people who don't meet these narrow definitions of professionalism, especially Black people, face harsher consequences. It's not just about how you look, it's about how you speak, your tone, your behavior. These things are all scrutinized more heavily if you're Black, with infractions that might get overlooked in white counterparts, leading to harsher punishment. This mirrors the cult-like purity rules we mentioned, where those in power get to decide who is pure or worthy based on impossible standards, forcing others to conform to maintain their place in the group. Corporate America's version of purity culture makes it harder for marginalized individuals to express themselves authentically and advance in their careers, all while reinforcing existing power structures. Just like how cults use purity requirements to create an us versus them mentality, corporations use professionalism to keep certain people out. In the military, it's standards. By equating professionalism with adhering to dominant white cultural norms, they ensure that those who don't fit the mold face additional barriers to inclusion and advancement. It's another way of controlling behavior and keeping people in line, by making the rules nearly impossible for some to follow. And then I get into how cults use appearance control and attitude control. And the important thing about all forms of appearance control is it's never actually about the appearance. Me dressing in fuzzy purple hurts no people. It's always about controlling behavior. I am clearly not going to be controlled by an evangelical pastor if I'm dressed like this. That's why they don't like it.